was the last that he ever saw her. That was all verified by a comprehensive.
In May 2005, excitement filled the air as 124 high school graduates from Mountain Brook, Alabama, boarded planes to Aruba for a well-deserved celebration. This trip was not just a break from the books, it was a rite of passage, a final adventure before college and adulthood. The graduates stayed at the Holiday Inn of Aruba, set against a backdrop of clear blue waters and golden sandy beaches, an idyllic setting for what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. But the joyous atmosphere darkened when one of their own, Natalee Holloway, vanished, turning the festivity into a high-profile mystery. Natalie was last seen on the night of May 30, 2005, leaving a bar with 3 young men she had just met. Her disappearance would soon capture the attention of the world, casting a shadow over the island paradise and leaving her family and friends in agonizing uncertainty. Natalee Holloway was born on October 21, 1986, in Clinton, Mississippi, but she grew up in the well-to-do suburb of Mountain Brook, Alabama. A standout student at Mountain Brook High School, she excelled academically and was a member of the dance squad. Her friends knew her as a spirited and kind-hearted individual, always ready with a smile and a helping hand. Her parents, Beth and Dave Holloway, divorced when Natalie was young, and Beth later married George "Jug" Twitty, a prominent Alabama businessman, which introduced Natalie and her younger brother Matthew to a blended family setup. Despite the changes at home, she maintained a close relationship with both her mother and her biological father, who remained involved in her life. As high school graduation approached, Natalie looked forward to starting the next chapter of her life at the University of Alabama, where she planned to study pre-med. She had earned a full scholarship, a testament to her hard work and dedication. The trip to Aruba was meant to be a celebration of her achievements with her classmates before they all headed off to college. However, it turned into something unimaginable that would halt her bright future abruptly. On May 25, 2005, Natalee Holloway and her classmates landed in Aruba, eager to celebrate their recent graduation with sun, sand, and sea at the Holiday Inn, located just steps from the vibrant turquoise waters. This trip was a tradition for Mountain Brook High's graduates, a chance to unwind after the rigors of high school. The students were chaperoned by 7 adults, but with over 100 teenagers, the supervision was stretched thin. The group quickly immersed themselves in the local scene, for the carefree revelry that defines renowned beaches and vibrant nightlife. Days were spent sunbathing and participating in various water sports, while evenings were reserved for dancing and dining. Aruba's nightclubs and bars, particularly those around the Palm Beach Hotel area, became favorite hangouts for the American students. The Holiday Inn itself buzzed with activity, its casino and bars filled with tourists and locals alike, mixing freely with the young visitors. On these nights, Natalie and her friends sampled the freedom that came with being legal adults in Aruba, where the drinking age is 18. The festive atmosphere, however, also meant that the teens were often left to their own devices, navigating the challenges and temptations without much oversight. As the trip neared its end, the mood shifted from carefree to careless, setting the stage for Natalie's last known night, May 30, 2005. It was a night like any other, with the students out enjoying their final evening, unaware of the tragic turn it would soon take. On May 25, 2005, Natalee Holloway and her senior classmates arrived in Aruba for a post-graduation vacation. They checked into the Holiday Inn, a bustling hub for tourists looking to enjoy the island's pristine beaches and vibrant nightlife. For the first few days, Natalie and her friends indulged in the local attractions, soaking up the sun during the day and exploring the lively scene by night. Carlos and Charlie's, a popular bar known for its lively atmosphere, quickly became a favorite spot for the group. As the days progressed, the graduates, including Natalie, were seen enjoying various activities. They were spotted sunbathing on the beaches, shopping in local stores, and dining at seaside restaurants. The evenings were reserved for experiencing Aruba's nightlife. The teens, legal adults in Aruba, visited multiple clubs and bars, mingling with fellow tourists and locals alike. On May 30, 2005, Natalie's last full day on the island, the mood was particularly festive. That night, the group again visited Carlos and Charlie's. It was here that Natalie was last seen by her classmates. She was spotted leaving the bar just before midnight in the company of Joran van der Sloot, a Dutch student vacationing on the island, and the Kalpo brothers, Deepak and Satish, who were residents of Aruba. Eyewitnesses at the bar noted that Natalie, appearing to be in high spirits, left with her new acquaintances in a silver Honda car owned by the Kalpo family. This was the last confirmed sighting of Natalie. She did not return to her hotel that night, and her absence was noted the following morning when she failed to show up for the return flight to the United States. This timeline of Natalie's activities in Aruba paints a picture of a young woman enjoying her freedom with friends, unaware of the dangers that a seemingly innocent night out could bring. The events leading up to her disappearance would soon trigger a massive search effort and captivate media attention worldwide. Joran van der Sloot, a Dutch student, was 17 years old at the time he met Natalie. Tall, with a charismatic demeanor, Joran was known at his school for being outgoing and somewhat of a gambler. He lived in Aruba since he was a child, where his father served as a judge, which many speculate helped him navigate the legal intricacies after Natalie's disappearance. The Kalpo brothers, Deepak and Satish, originally from Suriname, resided in Aruba. Deepak, the older of the two at 21 years, was known for his quiet and reserved nature, contrasting sharply with his younger brother Satish, who was 18 and more outgoing. Both worked in the computer repair business, which allowed them an in-depth knowledge of digital footprints, possibly aiding in their initial evasion of police scrutiny. The paths of these three young men crossed with Natalee Holloway's on her last night in Aruba. They were introduced to her at the casino attached to the Holiday Inn, where Natalie was staying. The group later moved on to Carlos and Charlie's, a popular bar among tourists, where they spent several hours enjoying the lively atmosphere. Witnesses recall seeing Natalie leaving with these three individuals, which was the last time she was seen. Their acquaintance with Natalie was brief but significant, raising immediate concerns when she was reported missing the next day. The dubious natures of van der Sloot and the Kalpo brothers, particularly highlighted by their changing stories and inconsistent alibis in the aftermath of Natalie's disappearance, cast a shadow of suspicion that would only deepen as the investigation continued. Their familiarity with the island and local legal loopholes would become a focal point in the harrowing days to follow. On the evening of May 30, 2005, Natalee Holloway's last night in Aruba, she and her friends headed to the Excelsior Casino connected to the Holiday Inn. It was there that Natalie first crossed paths with Joran van der Sloot. The casino's lively atmosphere, with the sound of slot machines and the cheerful chatter of vacationers, set the stage for their meeting. Joran, charismatic and fluent in English, introduced himself to Natalie. They hit it off quickly, chatting and gambling at the blackjack tables. As the night progressed, Natalie and Joran, along with the Kalpo brothers, decided to continue the evening at Carlos and Charlie's, a popular bar among young tourists. The bar was buzzing with energy, music blaring and people dancing. The group enjoyed drinks and the festive environment, a seeming extension of the carefree vibe they had at the casino. At some point during the night, Joran offered Natalie a drink. Unbeknownst to Natalie, the drink was laced with a potent drug, a detail that would only come to light later through investigations. The substance, colorless and odorless, was meant to incapacitate her, a common tactic used by predators to render their victims helpless. Towards the end of the night, surveillance cameras captured Natalie, visibly disoriented and unsteady, leaving the bar with Joran, Deepak, and Satish. They headed towards a silver Honda car, owned by the Kalpo family. This vehicle was seen leaving the bar's vicinity shortly before midnight, with Natalie in the back seat alongside her three new acquaintances. This moment marked the last confirmed sighting of Natalee Holloway. Her disappearance would soon stir international attention and spur a complex, multinational investigation that highlighted the dangers young tourists face abroad. When Natalee Holloway failed to appear for her flight home on May 31, 2005, her disappearance immediately triggered alarm among her classmates and chaperones. The initial response from local authorities, however, was marked by critical delays and a lack of urgency. Aruban police were slow to react, hindered by bureaucratic red tape and a cultural tendency to minimize the potential seriousness of missing tourist cases, often suggesting that they might have gone off on impromptu adventures. The first 24 hours, crucial in any missing person investigation, saw little to no action from the police. It wasn't until Beth Holloway, Natalie's mother, arrived later the same day that the search began to gain momentum. Frustrated by the slow pace of the local law enforcement, Beth took matters into her own hands. She leveraged the media, giving interviews and calling for tourist boycotts of Aruba to pressure the authorities into action. Her persistent efforts brought international attention to the case, highlighting the challenges of dealing with foreign legal systems. Beth's presence on the island intensified the search efforts. She organized volunteers, distributed flyers, and even conducted her own inquiries. The Aruban police, facing mounting international criticism, were forced to escalate their efforts. This included detaining Joran van der Sloot and the Kalpoe brothers for questioning. However, their initial release soon after only added to the public's frustration and suspicion regarding the investigation's thoroughness. Further complicating the search was the legal landscape of Aruba, which significantly differs from U.S. law. The suspects were protected under local laws that provided more rights to the accused, and the requirement for concrete evidence before arrest meant that police were limited in how aggressively they could pursue leads. This legal framework, combined with language barriers and cultural differences, made the investigation an uphill battle. Additionally, the investigation suffered from numerous procedural missteps, including a failure to immediately secure potential crime scenes and to collect forensic evidence in a timely manner. Miscommunications between Aruban officials and American authorities also led to critical delays. For example, Dutch restrictions on military involvement hindered the use of Dutch Marines in the search during the crucial first days. Beth Holloway's relentless pursuit and the international spotlight ultimately coerced the Aruban authorities to take more decisive actions, but the initial hurdles and procedural delays significantly hampered the chances of finding Natalie. As days turned into weeks, the hope of uncovering her whereabouts dimmed, setting the stage for a long, complex, and emotionally taxing ordeal. As the investigation into Natalee Holloway's disappearance deepened, the stories told by Joran van der Sloot and the Kalpoe brothers, Deepak and Satish, began to unravel, revealing a web of inconsistencies and lies that only fueled further suspicion. Initially, Joran van der Sloot and the Kalpoe brothers provided a coordinated alibi. They claimed to have dropped Natalie off at her hotel around 2 a.m. on May 30, 2005, and stated they last saw her entering the hotel lobby. However, no hotel surveillance footage supported their story, and witnesses at the hotel could not confirm seeing Natalie return that night. Under mounting pressure and intensified interrogation, their stories shifted. Joran later admitted that they had driven Natalie to the lighthouse area of the island instead, claiming they had left her on the beach at her request. This new version of events contradicted their initial statements and raised serious doubts about their credibility. The brothers, too, changed their accounts. First supporting Joran's initial story, they later corroborated his revised version, adding further inconsistencies. For example, Satish later admitted to not stopping at the hotel, but going straight to the lighthouse, which contradicted Joran's second version involving the beach drop-off. These evolving stories led to their arrests on June 9, 2005. Yet, despite their arrests, the lack of physical evidence and the continued changes in their testimonies made it challenging for prosecutors to build a solid case. Each new interrogation seemed to lead to a different version of events, complicating the legal proceedings and frustrating both investigators and the public. Joran van der Sloot's behavior and statements in interviews further cast doubt on his innocence. He often appeared unemotional and occasionally contradicted himself mid-conversation, which was highlighted in various televised interviews. These appearances did not endear him to the public and painted a picture of a young man possibly manipulating the truth to hide his involvement. The Kalpoe brothers were similarly scrutinized. Their reluctance to provide straight answers in interviews and their multiple changes in testimony made them unreliable witnesses, and public opinion was largely against them. Their repeated arrests and releases reflected the authorities' struggle to pin down the facts amid the ever-changing stories. As the investigation continued, the sheer volume of inconsistent testimonies provided by Joran van der Sloot and the Kalpoe brothers led to widespread suspicion that they knew more about Natalie's disappearance than they were admitting. Their shifting alibis not only hindered the investigation, but also suggested a deliberate attempt to mislead and confuse the authorities, keeping the truth about Natalee Holloway's fate shrouded in mystery. As news of Natalee Holloway's disappearance broke, the American media swiftly brought the case into the national spotlight. Major television networks and newspapers picked up the story, captivated by the narrative of a young woman vanishing in a foreign paradise just after her high school graduation. The extensive coverage not only sensationalized the mystery, but also highlighted the perceived inefficiencies of the Aruban legal system, casting a harsh light on the island's handling of the situation. The media frenzy intensified as Beth Holloway, Natalee's mother, became a fixture on news programs. Her relentless pursuit for answers and justice resonated deeply with Americans, many of whom saw her as a symbol of a mother's indefatigable love. Networks like CNN and Fox News frequently updated the public with live reports from Aruba, interviews with the family, and analyses by legal experts, which kept the case in the public eye and maintained a steady pressure on Aruban authorities to resolve the case. This constant media pressure led to several consequences. Firstly, it spurred a tourist boycott, advocated by Beth Holloway, which threatened the small island's economy, heavily reliant on tourism dollars. The boycott and the negative publicity generated widespread concern among local businesses and the Aruban government about the long-term economic impact. Moreover, the media coverage influenced public opinion significantly. Many people formed their conclusions about the guilt of the suspects based on media portrayals, which often depicted Joran Sloot and the Kalpoe brothers in a negative light. This public sentiment echoed back to Aruba via social media and international news, compounding the pressure on local law enforcement to act swiftly and decisively. The scrutiny and critiques from the international community led to increased cooperation with Dutch authorities and the involvement of the FBI. This collaboration was pivotal in conducting searches and re-questioning witnesses and suspects with a level of rigor that might not have been applied without such high stakes brought about by media attention. Public rallies and vigils were held in Alabama and across the United States, showing a collective empathy and demand for justice, which kept the case active in the minds of the public and authorities. The media's role extended beyond reporting as it mobilized public sentiment and action across international lines, demonstrating the powerful impact of globalized media coverage. In summary, the extensive media coverage and the resultant public reaction were double-edged swords. They put necessary pressure on local authorities, but also may have compromised parts of the investigation by casting widespread aspersions and creating a charged atmosphere of suspicion. The saga of Natalee Holloway's disappearance shows how media can become a crucial player in legal outcomes, particularly in cases involving missing persons abroad. Beth Holloway's transformation from a grieving mother to a tireless advocate for travelers' safety is a poignant chapter in the story of Natalee Holloway's disappearance. Arriving in Aruba just hours after receiving the distressing news, Beth's initial focus was singular: find Natalee. But as days turned into weeks with no progress, her mission broadened from not only locating her daughter, but also ensuring that no other family would have to endure such an ordeal. Driven by a profound sense of purpose, Beth leveraged every media opportunity to spotlight Natalee's case. She appeared on national television, gave countless interviews, and was a constant presence in the media. Her efforts kept Natalee's disappearance in the public consciousness and maintained pressure on both Aruban authorities and the U.S. government to pursue the case more aggressively. Beth's advocacy went beyond media engagement. She founded the International Safe Travels Foundation, an organization dedicated to educating young people about traveling safely. The foundation emphasizes the importance of being aware of one's surroundings, understanding local laws, and maintaining constant communication with family back home. Through her speeches and presentations at schools across the United States, Beth has made significant strides in raising awareness about travel safety. Beth Holloway took legal action to try to bring about justice for Natalee. She filed lawsuits against the suspects believed to be involved in Natalee's disappearance and worked tirelessly to see these individuals held accountable in court, although these legal battles have often been fraught with frustration and setbacks. Her relentless pursuit for answers and justice has inspired legislation as well. Beth's work contributed to the establishment of several initiatives aimed at improving international cooperation in the investigation of missing persons and the handling of Americans unaccounted for abroad. Through all these efforts, Beth Holloway emerged as a leading voice in the realm of personal safety and victims' rights. Her transformation into a national advocate has not only kept Natalie's story alive, but has also spurred changes that aim to protect other young travelers around the world. Beth's journey reflects a powerful response to unimaginable loss, transforming her grief into a crusade that champions the safety of young, adventurous spirits like Natalie. Her resolve continues to inspire many, proving that even in the darkest times, one person's courage and perseverance can ignite change across communities and borders. 5 years to the day after Natalee Holloway's disappearance, on May 30, 2010, Joran Sloot continued down a path that shocked the world yet again. This time, the scene was Lima, Peru, and the victim was 21-year-old Stephanie Flores, a business student who met Sloot at a poker tournament. Stephanie was found murdered in a hotel room registered under Sloot's name. This brutal crime bore eerie similarities to the unresolved case of Natalee Holloway, underlining a pattern of predatory behavior by Sloot. Investigations revealed that Sloot had beaten and strangled Flores after she allegedly looked through his laptop, possibly stumbling upon information related to Natalee Holloway's case. Security camera footage showed them entering his hotel room together, and hours later, Sloot leaving alone. For this crime, Sloot was arrested in Chile and extradited back to Peru, where he was convicted of murder and sentenced to 28 years in prison. This incident provided new momentum for the Holloway case. It prompted authorities to take another look at Sloot in connection to Natalie's disappearance. The parallel between the two cases was undeniable. Both involved young women, last seen with Sloot, whose charming demeanor masked his capacity for violent escalation. Following his imprisonment for Flores's murder, Sloot was also indicted by the U.S. government on charges of wire fraud and extortion. These charges were related to an alleged attempt by Sloot to extort money from the Holloway family in return for revealing the location of Natalie's body, a promise he never fulfilled. Added a sinister layer to Sloot's profile as an international criminal, not just a one-time suspect in a missing persons case. His actions post-2005 have led many to reconsider his involvement in Natalie's disappearance with a more condemning perspective. Flores and Sloot's later conviction served as a grim reminder of the dangers posed by individuals like him who prey on vulnerable targets. While justice was served in the Flores case, the Holloway family continues to seek closure, hoping that one day they too will have answers. Sloot remains the prime suspect in Natalie's disappearance, and the parallels in these cases continue to influence public and legal opinion regarding his culpability. Years have passed since Natalee Holloway vanished in 2005, but the quest to uncover the truth about her disappearance has never waned. The case remains open, with new leads and advances in forensic technology periodically rekindling hope for resolution. In 2008, Dutch authorities conducted a new search on the property of Joran Sloot's family in Aruba. This operation was triggered by Sloot's brief confession, later recanted, that he had disposed of Natalie's body in the foundations of his father's house. Although the search yielded no evidence linking to Natalie's disappearance, it underscored the ongoing commitment to solving the case. Further efforts included the 2010 discovery of what was initially thought to be Natalie's remains in a crab trap underwater near the Aruban coast. However, forensic tests determined that the remains were not human, dashing hopes once again. Despite these setbacks, the introduction of more sophisticated forensic technologies has given investigators new tools to re-examine old evidence. Legal proceedings, too, have seen new developments. In 2011, upon receiving evidence that Sloot attempted to extort money from the Holloway family by offering information on Natalie's whereabouts, the United States indicted him on charges of wire fraud and extortion. These charges provided a legal basis to hold him accountable, at least financially, for the anguish caused to the Holloway family. The FBI and Aruban police have also collaborated more closely, sharing information and resources. This international cooperation highlights the case's complexity and the need for a multifaceted approach to law enforcement efforts. Most recently, in 2019, a new tip led investigators to a park near the Holiday Inn where Natalie was last seen. Although the search did not uncover any new evidence, it demonstrated the authorities' readiness to follow up on any credible lead. The persistence of the Holloway family, particularly Beth Holloway, has been a driving force behind the continued efforts. Her public appearances and interviews have kept Natalie's story in the public eye, ensuring that the case never fades from memory. The family has also used advances in social media to maintain public interest and pressure on authorities, making clear that they remain undeterred in their quest for answers. As the years progress, the hope for finding Natalie alive has diminished, but the resolve to uncover the circumstances of her disappearance remains strong. Each new search and legal motion reinforces the commitment to seeking justice for Natalie, with the global community watching and waiting for the day when the truth finally emerges. This story sparked a significant increase in awareness about the risks associated with international travel, particularly for young adults. It highlighted the vulnerabilities students might face abroad and the need for comprehensive safety planning. In response, many American schools and parents began to implement stricter guidelines for student trips, including enhanced chaperone requirements, safety workshops prior to departure, and more stringent communications protocols. Organizations such as the International Safe Travels Foundation, established by Beth Holloway, have been pivotal in promoting these changes. This foundation works tirelessly to educate young people about safe travel strategies, such as researching local customs and laws, sharing itineraries with family members, and maintaining regular check-ins during travels. Legally, Natalie's case underscored deficiencies within and differences between judicial systems internationally. It exposed the need for greater cooperation and clearer communication between nations on criminal matters. This has gradually led to improved international protocols for handling cases of missing persons abroad, including faster extradition processes and enhanced sharing of forensic data. In the U.S., the case prompted legislative efforts to protect American citizens traveling overseas. These include proposals for laws that would penalize countries that fail to adequately investigate the disappearances of Americans on their soil, aiming to prevent future tragedies through diplomatic pressure. The psychological impact on Natalie's family and community has been profound. Her disappearance has maintained a permanent presence in the media and the minds of the public, serving as a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk when young people travel abroad. It has also influenced how families and communities deal with similar heartbreaking situations, often leading to increased caution and protective behaviors towards traveling youth. For the community of Mountain Brook, Alabama, Natalie's disappearance was a defining moment that brought the community closer. It fostered a more vigilant and supportive community spirit, where the safety of its young citizens became a shared priority. Furthermore, the Holloway family's tireless search for justice has inspired other families experiencing similar agonies, demonstrating the power of resilience and advocacy in facing unimaginable grief. Natalie's case has become a cornerstone in discussions about missing persons, cases globally, continually influencing policies and practices aimed at protecting travelers worldwide. Overall, while Natalee Holloway's fate remains a painful mystery, her legacy endures through ongoing efforts to enhance safety for young travelers and through the strengthened resolve of communities and families to protect their loved ones from similar fates. The changes inspired by her story have undoubtedly made travel a more secure venture, reflecting a poignant outcome from a tragic loss. As of today, the case of Natalee Holloway remains unresolved, with key suspects still under a cloud of suspicion, but no definitive proof to close the case conclusively. Joran van der Sloot, the primary suspect, is currently serving a 28-year sentence in a Peruvian prison for the murder of Stephanie Flores in 2010, but he has never been charged in relation to Natalie's disappearance. His extradition to the United States, anticipated to occur upon his release, is pending to face charges of wire fraud and extortion tied to the Holloway case. The Calpo brothers, who were last seen with Natalie and van der Sloot, have not faced charges beyond initial arrests due to insufficient evidence. Over the years, multiple searches and forensic investigations have been conducted, with each providing no substantial clues that could lead to Natalie's whereabouts. Legal hurdles, including differences in international laws, have complicated the efforts for prosecution. Without concrete evidence or a confession, the legal proceedings have hit a standstill, leaving the Holloway family and supporters in a painful limbo. The mystery of what happened to Natalee Holloway that night in Aruba continues to haunt all who have followed the case, a poignant reminder of the challenges that persist in solving international missing persons cases. The hope for new information remains, supported by ongoing advances in forensic technology and persistent public interest in Natalie's story. The disappearance of Natalee Holloway remains a poignant narrative of unresolved loss and enduring hope. For over a decade, the Holloway family has navigated a path riddled with obstacles, from elusive suspects to tangled legal proceedings across different judicial systems. Their unwavering resolve highlights a journey marked not only by pain, but also by profound courage and determination. The global attention garnered by Natalie's case has underscored critical lessons in international law enforcement cooperation. It has shown that while geopolitical and legal complexities can impede justice, persistent public interest and media scrutiny can catalyze action and inspire changes in policy aimed at protecting citizens abroad. This case has also served as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities travelers can face, prompting enhanced safety measures and international dialogue on how to better safeguard young individuals exploring the world. As we reflect on the legacy of Natalee Holloway's case, let us renew our commitment to seeking answers and ensuring justice. The continued public interest not only supports the Holloway family, but also maintains pressure on entities involved to uphold principles of justice and humanity. Let this not be a story of defeat, but a beacon that guides future efforts to protect and aid those in peril far from home.